Well, it's a challenge in all. I think you can see in all sports, can't you? But I think one thing you can't coach is that aspect when an established rider or an established athlete is looking over their shoulder because there's somebody coming up pretty quick behind them, and that drive that it gives them. You know, when you've got a hungry young girl or guy behind coming up and pushing them for their spot, that you can't coach. So if you can create that environment and manage it without it sort of overflowing and spilling over, as it were, and that's your perfect coaching environment. That's your perfect performance environment. But it does take some managing. You know, you tend to come across with some very strong individuals and some very strong individual desires to win, but ultimately we're running a team. So I think the trick is to get the right blend of allowing people to have their own goal, as it were, and feel really motivated and getting their opportunity, but blending that into team results at the highest level. And I think that's the challenge, and it's never going to be easy. And I think my experience of all the teams I've ever worked with, the very successful ones anyway, have always had an edge to them. They've always been quite a gnarly kind of environment, really. And I don't know whether that's an absolutely necessary or not, but it always seems to be in the way with the teams I've been involved with. And I think in there, I think it's probably, you've got these kind of competing ambitions and you've got individual kind of desire, and you've got to manage all that and keep it all kind of under wraps, but try and allow it to give you an extra edge to your performance. So I think just trying to potentially create just a happy family where everybody's happy and everybody's good and all the rest of it. And it's be a nice place to be, but you ain't going to win anything, really. You've got to have that killer instinct, and you've got to, you know, have a real edge to what you do if you want to really compete and win. And so I think that's what you need, you know. Well, I think you can identify talent and have a good go at identifying the headroom, if you like, of a performer. And then the question is, can you help somebody and support somebody to achieve that, you know, to travel through that headroom and get to their optimal performance. So spotting the talent, the raw talent, isn't difficult, but getting them then, because everybody's individual, you know, nobody's the same, there's no one size fits all way of doing this, you know, and there's no kind of textbook, you know, if you can't just copy and paste, it doesn't work. And the people try and copy and paste and think there's a formula to it, you know, they don't quite get there. But so you've got to look at the individual and what works for the individual, and then try and come up with plans for them and mesh it all together, if you like. But for somebody like Richie Port, I think we saw quite a while ago that this guy's got real talent. It's there. Anybody can see it. You could see it years ago. But the trick is then to take that individual and find out what's going to unlock that talent and allow him to move forward and give him the belief systems, which is so important in any sport, the confidence, the self-belief to be able to really step up and move on. And I think that's the challenge of it all, isn't it, you know? I don't think about that too much, you know. I think I spend my time thinking about how do we improve. You know, this idea of continuous improvement, something I really like. I enjoy thinking about that. And then, you know, you've got to step back and try and think about people, and how do you support other people to perform. And you know, in that there's got to be people got to be, you know, there are certain basics, aren't they? People like to know exactly where they stand. They don't like to know how they're going to be judged. They like to know what's expected of them. They like to have clarity about what's going on. They like to be valued. You've got to challenge them a little bit, you know, and I kind of spend quite a lot of time thinking about the whole kind of structure and environment and the culture that we create to make sure it's that people feel supported enough but equally challenged enough in a positive sense to try and get the best out of themselves. So I'm so busy thinking about that, you know, you never know in sport, do you? You know, you just don't know what's going to happen this season, and it goes with the territory, I think. You just don't know, you know, so I think everything's happened, and you've got to look forward and think, right, we'll all start from scratch again. Everybody's the start of the season, everybody's on the start line, Nobody's got any more greater right than anybody else to have a head start, and you've got to work hard. And if you don't put the work in and do what it takes, then you're going to be in trouble. So you've got to keep pushing, I think. Yeah, it's a good question. We tried very hard in the classics. We tried different approaches, and we haven't managed to pull one off yet. But it's not without the ones trying, and I still think we'd very, very much like to try and take one of those, get on the top steps of the podium in one of those races for sure. But you've got to learn, and I think there's I think our approach to Grand Tours is that we very much analyse the demands of the event. We figure out what it's going to take, and then we come back to basics, and we put in plans to make sure we can get there. Whereas I think in the one-day races, they're more unpredictable. They are very, very challenging to win. But we'll keep on trying, and the desire is still there to try and perform in that area. But as of yet, it hasn't quite come off. But in sport, if you keep knocking on the door long enough, eventually it opens. Was my experience.